What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount Mograph. My name is Matt, and in today's video we're going to be making a low poly bee swarm. So there's a lot more stuff you can learn in this video. I know I just put one up yesterday, but I was going to drive home and the roads are terrible. Michigan ice snow was just pretty awful, so not going to be making that drive. So in order to kill some time, I'm putting up this video, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, there's definitely some stuff you can learn from this and make either like an abstract design or something similar. And you can do a lot more with this. I just did a really quick render because I didn't want to sit here for like a couple hours and wait for this to come out so I could show you guys. So I just did a real quick one. It's really cool, and like if you have a creepy relative coming in for the holidays and just want to kill some time, watch this video and then you have an excuse. But anyway, so we'll be making this in Cinema 4D, and I think it looks pretty cool. I didn't have to use any keyframes to make this. So once again, that is the beauty of MoGraph. So let's go into Cinema 4D, and we'll just start by creating our bee. And after that, I mean, if that's all you want to learn, that's great. And yeah, so it's super easy, super fun, at least in my opinion, and we should have a pretty good time with this one. So let's start by opening Cinema 4D. We'll go into our primitives and grab a capsule. Just rotate this. Actually, what I'm going to do is just rotate this on the x-axis. I still have to learn how to say that word, but that'll be down the road, I guess. New Year's resolution, learn how to say words. So let's change our, we're going to be making this like a low poly style, so I'll just start by deleting the Phong tag right off the bat. Go into your capsule, and we're going to make the radius a little bit bigger. This is going to turn out to be the bee's body. And this is just basically how I ended up making it, you know? Like, if you have a different idea that you want to try, go for it. But I'm just turning down the segments until I get, you know, something more like this, which if I do a quick preview, we have a very nice low poly look to it already. So now let's go into our, what would this be? Our polygon selection mode, or you can just click this button over here. I'm going to go and be using my different views, so that'd be like F1, F2, F3 to go between them all. And this way, I'll be able to select stuff very easily. So I'm going to make my capsule editable, and I'm going to rename this as well as bee body. Bee body, that sounds pretty cool. Alright, so now go into your selection tools, and let's grab a rectangle selection. In your attribute manager, turn your only select visible elements off, and now we're going to be able to model like a basic bee's body. At least, well, that's what I'll call it, but I mean, you can really do anything. So as long as you click that only select visible elements, you'll be able to select like a whole ring of, whoopsie, sorry. Yeah, you'll be able to select a whole ring around it very easily. Just from one view, which keeps everything like nice at 90-degree angles, and you're not selecting crap you don't want, which is cool. So I'm just going to go and basically you're going to want to just grab different selections of the body and just scale it up. That looks stupid. But just scale it up and give it like a B shape, you know? It doesn't have to be perfect. You can select these segments and scale it up, scale it down. Really just have a good time with it. This doesn't have, there's no like right way to do low poly, as I've kind of found out, you know, like it's all up, like you can get way more detailed with it. You can really do anything you want, and I think that's half the fun of it, is it's a really fun style. Also, cool thing about low poly is it renders way quicker, which is a huge bonus. Like if you've ever had to sit around for like a day or two waiting for a render, that just starts to suck. So I'm pretty happy with this this basic shape of my body. I'm going to go and grab my point selection mode and just grab this little end, and I'm going to make this into like his stinger. He is a dangerous bee. So that is what my top view looks like. If I was to go into my my perspective view, we have this bee body, which I'm actually going to just rotate. I think it's going to be 90 degrees, just so it's like on the right plane. That was my fault. I was just not really paying attention to what I was doing. So this basic bee body I think looks pretty decent. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Has that low poly look to it. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So let's go and now create the head. Basically, all I'm going to do is grab a platonic object. Just drag this out so I can see what I'm changing. Go into your platonic attributes, go down to your type, and let's change this to a dodeca. And that doesn't look great, but if I go into my front view, you can also just do this in perspective. This is just like how I do things. So you don't have to do that if you don't like it. But I'm just going to scale it till it looks about the right size. So that is cool. All right. Yeah, I mean, I could have done that in perspective. It's just like how I do things, I guess. So I'm going to press C on my keyboard and make my platonic editable. And I'm just going to scale this down and kind of get a little bit of an angle to it. You know, make it thinner because bees' heads aren't as fat as their body. And once again, I'm not an expert. That's just what I've kind of observed. And I'm going to maybe tilt this a little bit, give it a little bit of an angle or something. I don't know. Just, let's see. It looks like he needs a neck now. So I'm just going to grab a cylinder and rotate that 90 degrees, scale it down, and just, you know, we'll just pretend he has a neck. Cool. And that one doesn't really matter, you know. So that looks pretty decent. We haven't spent too much time in this, and we don't really have to because low poly is pretty quick. So let's grab another platonic object, and we're going to turn these into his eyes. Also in this video, I'll show you a really cool like way to make materials that I've been using a lot. That gives it a really unique style that really stands out from other stuff. So that's cool. So let's see. I'm going to go into my top view, and I'm just going to scale this a little better. Hold command and drag my move tool to copy it. So now I have, actually, you know what? We're only going to be working on one side of him, and we'll use a symmetry object to build both sides. So that'll save us some work. Let's see. I'm going to make this platonic eye editable. Scale it like this. Drag it in. All right, that's cool. Let's now name our materials because I always forget to do that because I'm an idiot. And that is probably confusing for everybody. So delete my Phong tags, make sure it's all looking pretty good. This platonic is the bee head. Cool. And so also in the second portion of this video, I'll show you how to make this really cool like dynamic flock effect, I guess I'd call it. I'm not really sure what to call it, but it looks really, really cool. And that's how you can create this angry swarm of low poly bees, or really just like an abstract design that moves around by itself. So let's see, let's create the legs. So I'm going to go into my primitives and select a pyramid. Just drag this out to the side, rotate this 90 or 180 degrees so it's upside down. Let's see, go into my attributes. I'm going to turn my segments up to 3. That is good. I will go into my right view, make my pyramid editable by pressing C on my keyboard, and I'm just going to model this into a basic leg. So how I'm going to do this is, once I grab my polygon selection tool, grab my rectangular selection, make sure only select visible elements is unchecked, and I'm going to just grab different portions and scale it up and just kind of give it a different kind of look to it. And let's see. Yeah, so we'll just keep doing that and see if we can make something kind of cool. This is always going to be just what looks good to you. You know, there's no right way, there's no wrong way, which I guess is like the best way to work. I'll go into my live selection mode and see, make sure that is selected. Scale that up a little bit. Drag it down. All right, so now I'm going to go into my top of this thing, grab my polygons, grab my live selection mode, and I will just highlight all this top bit. Right now, oops, I still have it on select. So now if you're going to be selecting like something that is on the top and you don't want to select the stuff on the bottom, you're going to want to make sure to click only select visible elements, check that. So that way, depending on what we're looking at, it's the only thing that will be selected. So I just want to select the top on this so I can scale it down. So there we go. Scale it down. And that looks great. So that's going to be our basic bee leg. And that's all we're going to do with it for this portion. But we're going to now go into our top view, grab our pyramid, which I'm actually going to rename leg. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees or 180 degrees. Nope, it is 90 degrees. Scale it down a bit and just position this about where I want on the bee's body. Holding command, I'm going to drag out a duplicated copy and drag out one more duplicated copy. I have no idea how many legs bees have, so I'm just guessing. I feel like it's got to be like 6, right? That's like most insects. Maybe it's 8. I don't know, and I don't really care. But if someone does know, leave a comment. Do a Google search. Leave me a comment. I might learn something, which is great. So basically, we're just going to be positioning these at a good spot on the bee's body. Maybe down towards the bottom looks better than just sticking out of the top. And now I'm going to select my legs. And now I'm going to show you a really cool tool. Go into press V on your keyboard to bring up your quick selection menu. Go to select or go to, what do we want? We want to go to point mode. Or you can just click this button over here. Press V again and go into your loop selection. And that way we can just select this loop just like that. And I'm going to rotate it and just make each leg look a little different with that tool. And I'll grab my loop selection again and rotate this one. Now grab my regular point tool with my live selection. And let's see, I'll grab this little end a bit and just move that. Maybe grab a different leg. You just want all the legs to look a little different. We don't have to spend too much time because the bee itself is very small. But, you know, just give it a little bit of a character, I guess, instead of just like a super boring standard bee. Our bee is awesome. He's got huge legs. He's been hitting the gym, I guess. Whatever. Maybe scale him up and down a little bit. Try to make it look like they're attached to the body. And let's see. Nice. So that is the basic bee body from one side. Now let's go and create a wing, which is also very easy. We're going to go into our primitives and select a plane object. Go down into your plane object. Oh, not your plane object. My bad. Go into your primitives and select your polygon object. And that's just going to create a single polygon for us, just like this. But we're going to actually want to make this a triangle. So just click your triangle button. Turn the segments up to, let's say, 4. And we are going to press C on our keyboard to make it editable and delete our Phong tag on that. Next, go into your point mode. Actually, no, don't go into your point mode. Go into your top view, so F2 on your keyboard. Grab your rectangular selection, grab your polygon selection mode, and just grab this bottom portion. And we'll just, whoa, what am I doing? That's never good when I start saying that. What am I doing? So just give it a basic wing shape. Once again, it doesn't have to be perfect because, yeah, it just doesn't have to be perfect. Let's see. Maybe scale this down a little bit. And that looks great to me. You know, it doesn't have to be too fancy. And the good thing is, like, the less polygons you have, the easier the scene will be to animate in the long run, which is fantastic. So I'm going to go in my top view and just scale this up to about the right size. And let's see, move my axis point of it just by pressing L on my keyboard or selecting my axis modification tool right here, and just dragging my axis closer to the end of, like, the tip of the wing, just so that way, if I go into my perspective mode, I will be able to give it a little bit of tilt, like this, like that, duplicate that wing, and do they have 2 wings? I don't know, but that looks pretty good, I guess. So now I'm just going to make sure they're attached to the body. And that is fine for what we're doing. So that is half of a bee. We'll make the other half with a symmetry object. But first, let's make our materials and just throw some quick materials on here. And we'll get into the cool stuff of the video. So on your color, just turn off your specular. Double click here to create a new material. Let's make a sweet yellow for a bee. And all we're going to have to do, this is what I've been doing, is turn on your luminance channel and turn your brightness down to 50. And this is going to create a really nice soft effect, and you don't need lights in the scene then. So grab your color, and we're going to drag this onto our luminance channel, and look at that. We have this really soft glow, which is something I really like. I think it looks great, and I've been using it for a lot of stuff. So I'm going to grab this and put it onto all my corresponding layers. And let's see, I'm going to want a white. So just drag out your material, duplicate it. Let's make it kind of soft white or yellow. And this can be whatever you want if you're following along. I'm just doing this real quick, so I'm not going to waste too much time messing around with this. We'll add stripes on the bee in just a second. Drag out one more material, and we'll make this kind of darkish brown. Drag that. Cool. Put this on my eye and on my legs. And now what we need to do is texture or add this like a striped ring onto our body. So just grab your bee body layer, go into polygon selection mode, and I would recommend going into a top view or just one of the perspective views. That way you see a blue outline for the layer you have selected. Go into your rectangle selection mode, and I'm just going to highlight a certain amount. Make sure your only select visible elements is off. I'm going to, holding shift, drag another selection. So now I have these two orange highlights. I'm just going to right click and go down to, where is this? Oh, it might not be under there. I have a little shortcut for it right up here, but just anyway, we're going to go to, and I have to find it. One second, guys. Sorry. Create, select. Okay, so what we're going to do is once you have your polygon selected, go up into your selection mode and go down to set selection. And you'll get this little triangle that pops up, and we're just going to call this stripes. So now we can go out of our perspective view, or go back to our perspective view, and nothing has happened. Well, that's depressing, but let's drag our matte 2, the black color, onto our bee body, and our bee changes to black. Well, that's not going to work. So click your material, and when you click your material, you'll get this window, and there's a window area that says selection. So just drag that stripe selection into that, and boom, we now have a bee. So if I do Command R, look at that. That looks pretty cool. What I might actually do is just deform these wings a little bit. So I'm just going to go into Displacer and put this on my polygon. And I don't know if I should be doing this right now. I don't think it matters that much. What do I need to go to? Noise. That's fine. You know, I just want to give it a little bit more. I couldn't really see the shading on it or anything. That looks better. What if I play it? Perfect. So I'm just going to duplicate that displacer onto my other polygon and just change the number more. Maybe go the other way. Great. Yeah, I just wanted to give the wings like a little bit of character. Yeah, and just do that. So now, let's see. What do we need to do? So right click now we need a, what do we need to do? Okay, so group all of this and do Alt-G on your keyboard with it selected. And we are going to grab an array object, make it a symmetry object, and drag our new null into that. We get this double-headed bee that looks really dumb. So just go and we're going to set this to X, Y, and there we go. We have this bee, and we didn't have to make the other side. It just makes itself for us, and check that out. So I think that looks pretty nice. You know, for a little bit of time, that's really not too bad. And let's see if I make that editable. Right click, select children, and connect objects and delete. I now have this whole bee model. You guys don't have to do that stuff, but this way I won't be able to change anything now, but this bee is one object. You know, that's pretty cool. So that's how you make objects if you didn't know that. And yeah, I think this looks pretty funny. It's definitely different. So now let's I'll show you how to make this bee like flocking angry swarm thing. So just holding Alt, we'll click our traffic signals, make our bee not visible, and now we're going to get into some stuff that might be a little confusing but is super cool, so it's worth watching. Let's create a cube, and you're like, what the hell is that for? Well, we're going to be well, I'll just explain it as we go. Basically, make a cube, and now we're going to place our cube into a MoGraph fracture object. So what this does is when we put our cube in the fracture object, nothing happens, which is a trend. But basically, if we want to apply any of these like these MoGraph effectors to it, or other things like this, we need it to be in a Fracture object. Otherwise, we'd have to put it in a cloner, and yeah, just put it in a Fracture object. I promise that is what you want to do for this. And this way we'll be able to add some the random effector to this and give it some motion. So now that we have our cube in a Fracture object, we're going to want to make sure our Fracture object is selected. Go into your MoGraph module, select your effector, and go down to random. So with the random selected, we are going to, what are we going to do? I just have to find my window. All right, so we're going to go into our random effector, go down into the effector mode, go down into the random mode, and change this to noise. Also change your noise selection to indexed, and this will make it like a smoother interpolation between each of the movements. So if I press play, our cube moves just a little bit. It looks like it's got the shakes. It's really cold out or something. So that is going to be helpful. Right now it looks dumb, and we don't want it to be like that, but it's okay. So now what we're going to want to do is turn our animation speed down to like 50. We don't want it to be moving that crazy, but we do want to have it, like, see how that looks kind of cool? I'll actually turn my, I'll make this a longer scene just so we can really see what's going on. So if I press play, it's going to have a nice, like, easy movement, and it's still not as much movement as we want, but right now we're going to leave it like this. So now let's go and add a tracer object to our Fracture. And we used this before, or you might have, for other projects, and I also did it for like the low poly bullet, or like the bullet animation in one of my videos. But it's a cool effect, and it's really helpful. So make sure your Fracture object is selected, go into your MoGraph module, and select the tracer. So as you can see, you can also just make a tracer and drag your Fracture object into the trace link, but it just automatically adds if you have it selected. So if you press play, you still can't see what's happening. So what we're going to do is hide our Fracture object. So holding Alt on our keyboard, or actually you can just, holding Alt on your keyboard, just double click your traffic signals. And now if I zoom in, I'm going to have this randomly drawing line. So what this line is the tracer attached to one of the corners of our cube. So if I was to turn this up, I think I can go up to 4. Let's see, in theory. That's not what we wanted. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter. But basically, yeah, so this is going to trace one of the corners of our cube in a nice smooth animation and create this super easy random spline for us, instead of, like, this would take a long time to actually draw in 3D space, you know? So instead of wasting our time doing that, we're going to just let this Cinema 4D draw its own scribbly line, which is cool. We're giving it some creative, what, you know what I'm trying to say. Some artistic freedom, that's the word. So now that we have our tracer linked to our Fracture object, let's turn our motion, so go into your random effector, go into your parameters, and let's really turn this effect up. So I'm going to do 8,000, 6,000, and 6,000. So what this is going to do is give the movement of our cube much more motion, and going to add our tracer still is going to be attached. So now we're going to get these like wide arcing lines in theory. So let's see. Okay, I really have to zoom out. But check that out. So now I have like this roller coaster that is being automatically built by Cinema 4D. I haven't keyframed anything. It's just doing it on its own. So that's cool. I could add a camera to the end of that and really get seasick. But yeah, so now I have this 3D scribble just drawn away, doing its thing, having a good time. And we're going to add some bees to this, and the bees are going to, basically, this is going to be the bees motion. And I'll show you how to do that. So what we're going to now do is create a cloner object. Go into your MoGraph module, click your cloner right here, and we are going to just, actually, before we drop our bee into that, we're going to do some tests. So just create a cube, and we'll scale it down a little bit, and drop your cube into your cloner object. So now go into your cloner object, and we're going to make this mode into object, and we're going to add our tracer to our object. in our object mode. So if that's not confusing enough, now when I play this animation, my cloner is going to follow along the splines, or like the tracer spline. So what's funny about this though is there's only ever going to be 10 what do you call this, 10 clones, because as like the tracer gets longer, it's going to be like an even distribution of each of the clones. So if I really turn this up to like 110 and play it, we're gonna get a line. So as you can see, you can get this really awesome like abstract looking effect. Like how cool does that look? It looks like out of Transformers or something, like some sweet, I don't know. Whoa, it's going crazy. So yeah, if you're at this point of the video and you think this is cool, throw me a like. And if you are still hating this video, hate my voice, hate the video, dislike it, please. Let me know. So cool. We have this really awesome, easily generated effect, and we're going to now make it so it's even more cool. So now that we have our, what are we going to do? Okay, so now what we need to do is on our cloner, since it is a from the MoGraph module, we can go into our MoGraph window, grab an effector, and grab a random effector. And so now what we're going to do is, let's see if we play it. What is happening here? So all of these cubes are like a little bit off, as you can see in this. Like not a ton, because we can turn up these effects, but each of them has, I'm going to start this again. So if I play it, you can see that they're no longer just like evenly distributed. They have a little bit more to them. So basically, let's go into our beginning of our animation, go into your random, we'll go into our effector and turn our strength down to 1. And now just go forward a couple frames, maybe like 34, and just turn this up to 100. So basically, it's going to start making all these clones, and then all of a sudden, it's going to be, they're all going to be touching each other, and that's going to be how we create this angry swarm. So there we go. That looks pretty cool. I don't think I'm going to want that many clones. I'm going to say 50. 110 seems a little silly. And once we add our bees to it, it might slow our system down, or depending on your computer, it might slow yours down. So we don't want to do that. So let's add a step effector to our cloner. So we're going to go MoGraph, effector, step effector. And now what happens is it's going to basically just scale this evenly. So the scale is going to be smallest at the end, and this is going to create like a nice taper look, or like a snake or something. See how the end is small and the beginning is a little fatter? Get on Weight Watchers, bro. But yeah, so that's cool. So wow, this looks kind of nice. Oh, abstract wallpaper. I hate abstract stuff. I think it's kind of funny, like you can make all this in 2 seconds, as you've seen. So let's see. Now that we have our this whole thing set up, this is basically going to be our B rig. We are now going to go into our tracer. If this is getting confusing, I'm sorry, but there's really nothing we can do about that. So in your tracer, we're going to go into limit, and we're going to go from end, and we're going to set this limit to, let's say, 50. 50 is the number of the day. And this way, as it's drawing, it's going to stop. So now it's still moving along that path we saw in the beginning, but as it draws, it's going to be like disappearing at the end. So that way we're going to have this nice like snake that is just drawn around. I think it'd be cool if we made like a Chinese dragon and just did something like this. Don't you think? So that looks cool. I like that. I think it looks really fun. I'm actually going to turn this down to 30 just so it's not that it still stays nice and touched to each other. But look, we made a low poly snake by accident. So now that we have that set up, let's add this is the only thing that we haven't gotten into in other videos really. So go into your cube and your cloner, and we're going to right click and go to simulation and set a rigid body right here. Tag to this. So click that. We only have to change 2 things, and we'll have this effect all made for us. So since this is a cloner object, basically whatever tags we add to this is going to be, and then when it's duplicated by the cloner, the tag will be like an inherent property of it. So now that we have that set up, let's go into our collision right up here. Just click this little tab, go down into individual elements and turn this on to all. And now go into your shape and we're going to change this to automatic mode dynamics. So I could explain that, but it might take a while. I'll probably explain it in other videos. But now when I play it, they're going to shoot apart, which is not the effect we want, but it is going to be helpful. So as soon as they start touching, since they all have these rigid body tags, which basically means that if they, I'll try to catch it. So if they're touching, so they're all being made right here, they're going to, like, see how none of them are actually touching each other? It's because as soon as they touch each other, they're going to want to jump apart, and that's what the rigid body is. But we still want this rigid body to follow along the path. So I added this tag, so basically they're going to bounce off each other. And how we're going to do this is go into our, what would it be? Our force tab on our dynamics body, and this is the other thing we'll be changing. We're going to change our position to 6, and this is just a guess, but basically this means that as they hit each other, they're going to bounce off each other, but they're still going to follow whatever path. Do you see how that kind of works? Like now, none of my cubes will be touching, like they won't be going into each other, but they'll be following the same path. So you could mess around with this and make it like way closer. If I turn it up to like 60, it's going to be like this cluster and just really, really close to each other. But I kind of like that loose one. So if you have it down a little bit, it's still going to follow the path, but it's going to bounce off each other, which I liked because it kind of gives it like a swarm effect. So now we have this like flying around cube set up. And remember, we're just keeping the cubes in here for right now just to like visualize what we're changing before we throw our bee in, because it has like colors and stuff on there. So now let's see. What do we want to change? I just got to think for a second. Let's add to our cloner. We're going to add one more thing. Go into your effector, and we're going to add a delay. And we're going to go into our effector and change our mode to spring, and maybe turn this up to like 64. So now as it moves, it's going to have kind of like, literally it's going to have like a little delay between what happens. And like as it hits, it might like spring out for a second and return to its position. So check that out. Right there we have a pretty cool effect, but remember we did make a bee. So let's get our bee into this animation. There he is. Totally forgot about you, bro. Let's drag our bee into our cloner. And now drag our rigid body tag onto our bee and delete our cube. So that way we don't have to mess around with our cube, and our bee is going to have this rigid body tag. So how awesome does that look? I was pretty happy with this effect. I thought it was pretty, if I do say so, pretty sexy effect. It looks like we really spent some time with this. And if you want, like now that you added your bee and it's like a different size, you might want to turn your tracer or go into your tracer and give it like more room to fly about. So if I make like the line longer, you know, there'll be like more of a delayed effect, which I like. And you know, this is also, you can go into your what would this be, your rigid body tag, and just turn your follow position up or down if you want it to be like a tighter beeline, or quite literally a tighter beeline, or just let it be. Oh god, I seriously did not mean to do that, but that is pretty sweet. So now if I was to just like grab a random frame and do Command R, check that out. We have some bees flying around. They're all pretty drunk, just flying nuts, but I mean, that's how bees move, I guess, right? I don't know, but I think that looks cool. So I mean, then you can throw a background, you can put this in a scene. I mean, you can also take this, instead of using the tracer and having like this randomly generated path, you can add your own spline. So let's say like I actually have like a circle and I want the bees to fly in a circle in my scene. So all you have to do is go into your cloner and drag your spline into your object and press play. And well, it's not perfect. It's not really following the path anymore. But I mean, you can animate it. Like basically if you have a spline, then you can, I mean, there's other crap to change, but that's how you can basically do that, if that makes sense. So let's put it back in our tracer. Look at this, a bee circle. Check that out. So yeah, I like this effect. I think it's cool. I didn't even think about this. I like seriously sat down on my computer because I was bored because of this ice storm and put this effect together. I think it's fun, and I think you guys should have a great time with it. So that's all for today. Hope you guys learned something. Drop me a comment, like this video, please. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, happy holidays, everybody. And this was Matt from Mount Mograph. And take care and drive safe. Talk to you guys later. See ya.